Welcome back to Market on Close. Let's get ready for some earnings and let's talk some charts. Gareth Soloway joins us this afternoon. He's the Chief Market Strategist of Verified Investing. Afternoon, Gareth. Welcome back.
Hey, great to be back. Thank you.
Appreciate that. We're going to hit some of our favorites here, but we also got some earnings. Let's talk some Micron because I think this is the fun one for the week. Maybe like the action stock for the semiconductors, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. This one's going to be a big one for the semi index across the board. And, I think people take this earnings announcement, extrapolate out to how the semiconductors are doing in the current environment. So looking at the chart, I'll tell you this is, it has this beautiful downsloping wedge. I generally like that. Price today is now trading above that wedge level, which puts me in a bullish bias on earnings. And again, if you look at where this stock was trading at $160, here it is below 100. It honestly does offer a decent risk reward into earnings. So I'd maintain kind of a bullish bias going into earnings later this week.
Okay, this is a pretty fun one because it dropped off like the face of the earth from the AI trade, and now analysts seem to be going back and forth. There's been a bunch of notes in the last week. It seems like some are saying, okay, it's old, memory. It needs, some justification for the valuation. Others are basically like, it's chips. It's going to get used. It's going to find some place in this new revolution.
Yeah, and I think that's the positive about it is that because price has taken such a hit, the expectations are relatively low on it. So, you're in a sector that's growing massively. If Micron can just show us something positive, then I do think the stock could really rally, 5-10% potentially to the upside. Then the question is, does it mean that the whole sector rallies and then ultimately does the market rally? But we'll find out later this week.
Okay. So Micron here, if it does get out of that kind of wedge or whatever you call it, the triangle, where does it go? I mean, like how big of a move is that? It seems like it could be projected out pretty far.
Yeah, I mean, really, we're talking upside resistance would be about 109. So again, that's just a short-term target. But if they really knock it out of the park on earnings over the subsequent few days, I do think 109, which was that high pivot going back to August, that would be your first technical level where you'd start to say, okay, this is now running into a resistance level. Can it push through, or is it going to fail and come back in? And I think the market will have a lot to do with that. The economic data, are we starting to see slowdowns in the future here in the economic data that may mean that the semi trade is starting to slow down as well?
Okay, and so the market maker move right now about $8.50 or so. So if it does break out, then the market would probably have to catch up. It seems what you think could be possible before it gets pushed back from whatever's kind of selling pressures above there around 110ish. Nice, like that. How about Costco, Gareth? I mean, what kind of lines do we need to draw on this one? It seems like it just goes
this one's an amazing chart, right? I mean, it just keeps going and going. The Energizer Bunny here in terms of Costco. I will say that it's starting to form this tight knit bear wedge here where we look for a down move. And I would just say this is I love mixing a little bit of technical analysis with logic. And when I look at Costco, and I go to Costco almost every weekend, don't get me wrong, but it's trading at a forward PE of 51 right now. And what that tells me is that it's very pricey and that investors are expecting amazing results here. Anything less than amazing, and the stock is priced to fall sharply. So I'm going to look at this with this wedge pattern. I think we break to the bottom of this and actually sell off. And again, we talk, you could be headed into the high 800s here if a good sell-off takes hold.
Okay. That would be pretty exciting for, I think, everybody in Costco because the bulls are going to want to buy up more down there, I would think, after such a long, storied run here. And then, bears are basically starved in this thing. So it would be a fun possibility to see it break down a little bit. You think Costco is in a world of its own, or is there any possibility where if the market really goes FOMO mode, we bail on Costco, Walmart, the staple stuff? Kind of a side point, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, so I think that is an interesting trade, and I was going to draw that comparison to Walmart, and I think you're really seeing the tale of people thinking that Costco and Walmart are the two places where the consumer won't leave, that they won't cut back. But one thing I know is that ultimately, when the consumer gets starved more and more, at some point they even cut back from the Walmarts as well as the Costco. So I think that's an issue there. But for the most part, yeah, the valuations on even something like Walmart north of 40 now are getting to levels where, as a defensive play, it's starting to get a little bit scary. I mean, it's hard to say, hey, I'm going to go into something that's 40 PE as a defensive name. And I do think that investors have to be very careful up here that we don't see a bigger sell-off across the board. I mean, if we get a growth scare, I think you see a sell-off in the Costcos and the Walmarts as well as the large cap tech.
All right, fun. Scenarios that we will revisit if and when they develop. Gareth, let's talk some others that you're watching, like the earnings plays there, going more macro. Bitcoin, maybe we hit that first, 63.5. It's really trying here the last couple of days. It's really trying.
It is. And right here is the 200 moving average. That's why over the last 5 trading days, it's stalled out. What I would say is it's kind of making bullish consolidation. So I think especially as long as the U.S. stock market keeps grinding up, Bitcoin has upside to about 68,000 here. So I like that. I think there is a chance of a pullback to about 61 or so, but that's going to be now major technical support. And again, I think the whole Bitcoin narrative, and we've even seen data that's saying that it's so perfectly correlated to the stock market. So as long as that stock market continues grinding, Bitcoin probably has upside to 68,000.
Okay. So we got to get through there, and we haven't just yet. Is there a trade then on rejection, or is it too strong short term? You just want to wait to get in until it clears?
So the way I'm going to play this and what I'm looking at myself is if we get up to 68,000 or so, I likely will take a short that's at that parallel trend line, dotted line you guys have there at resistance number 2. Resistance number 1, it's not a high enough reward for me to pull the trigger on a short here. However, if it pulls back to that 61 level, which would be a retrace, then I would be a buyer for that next leg up to 68.
Okay. All right. Nice. So looking for some more completion, it seems, for BTC. Last one on tech. Gareth, hit me real quick. You're looking at Alphabet among the Mag 7. So back to stocks here. And seems like a pretty good one, but we've stopped short again of August highs. It kind of looks like the NASDAQ.
Yeah, it does very, very similar to the NASDAQ, to NVIDIA, everything but Meta, right? Meta's kind of these outlandish one. But this is one where it's kind of had the bounce, but at the same time, it's not showing amazing strength relative to the S&P or relative even to the NASDAQ. So I just actually, for this one, sit on the sidelines. And I always remind investors that sometimes being in cash is a trade in and of itself, to leave that dry powder to react when there's a better trade setup out there. And so for Google, at least, or Alphabet, I'm on the sidelines here. I have no good read, bounced off support, but not at significant resistance yet to short. So I'm on the sidelines.
All right. Okay. Noted. Thanks, Gareth.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Speed work on the charts as